Welcome back to Tansson TV Plus. I'm Brandon,
And I'm Mom.
and thank you so much for joining us. We always love doing this, and Mom, I hope that you are doing well, and you can tell us what show we're speaking about here today.
All right, today we're going to talk about the Wonder Years, specifically the 2021 version of the Wonder Years.
Yes, and I personally am very excited, like I said, to speak about this series, as you mentioned, 2021 to 2023, made in part by 20th Television. And Mom, are you able to let us know a little bit about the show?
I sure will. And I'm going to do what I like to do and basically go through the top 10 things that I to give you a little information about the beginning of the series. What's more, welcome back to our first episode Friday, and we're still continuing on our Disney Plus theme. And so, what did I learn after watching this first episode? And I will say that we ended up watching the first two episodes of this. They kind of work together. But anyway, so what we learned was this series takes place in 1968. Their two parents are there, of course, Bill and Lillian, and they've been married for many years. They have three children. The show itself is actually narrated by their youngest child. Their youngest child, his name is Dean, and so this show is actually from the point of view of really him and his perspective. And so we learn about Dean as a up and coming teenager. He is 12 when the show begins. He talks about his love life. He talks about school life, a teenage life of a young man, and then how he views his family and how he's viewing the world around him. The world around them is actually extremely important for this series because, as I mentioned, it takes place in 1968, so a couple of things are going on. First of all, the Vietnam War is going on. This is an African American family, so they talk a little bit about the Vietnam War. Martin Luther King's death is actually mentioned in the first episode, and actually goes over the first two episodes. And the series itself takes place in Alabama, and so you do hear a little bit about some of the political things that are going on at that time era. Um, both parents, they mentioned that both parents, the professions of both of the parents. The dad is a professor and also a musician, and he's had at least one song become on the radio. From the first episode, we do hear that. And then the mom is an accountant, and we know that she's very involved with her kids' life, and that she believes that actually eating together is important for a family, and food is very important, because they kind of show that in the first episode, which is kind of funny. Um, we know that the sister in the show is, I want to say, a quiet rebel. She does things that goes against the family a little bit, but is anything that's extreme. And so I'd say she's a quiet rebel. And but this is, and I'm going to call this, and I'm going to let you use your term, Brandon, but I'm going to call this the sister show of the Wonder Years that occurred in the 90s, because there was another show called the Wonder Years that did come on previously, and this mimics the show. In a way, it mimics the show. So that in itself is the what I learned about watching the first two episodes of the Wonder Years. The first episode itself, I will say, really just involved Dean as he's in school, and he talks about a girl that he likes, but his best friend likes her too. So that was the first episode in general. And then, of course, the death of Martin Luther King, and so they show a little bit of the effects of that.
Well, Mom, of course, thank you so much for that.
You're welcome, Brandon.
Yes, and as you mentioned, these are the first two episodes, the pilot and then episode two, titled Green Eyed Monster. And yeah, and first of all, Mom, what do you think about the show overall?
I really like the show. I really, really did. I think it is done really, really well. I like how they show what is going on in the time period, but at the same time they're showing it through the eyes of the teenager, and which is always an interesting perspective. I like the parents on the show. I think they're portrayed very well. So I really like the way the parents are, and I like the way although not in this particular episode is not shown, but the brother does come back at some point, and I like the way they slowly integrated him back into the show at a later time period.
Yes, and I absolutely love it. I love this show as well. It went for two seasons, yeah, a full season and then a second season of 10 episodes. But Yeah, I think one of the things I really liked about the show is that it was able to tell its own story, and it just happens to take place within that time period, but it doesn't ignore the world events, but it sort of integrates it into its own story.
Yeah, it does. It does. And it's not the whole, even though it takes place in that time period, the show, the characters itself, they're kind of going through just in general things that the young people do at any time period.
Yeah, and for context, I'll say that before the series debuted, I know we were going back and forth as to whether or not we would watch the show back in 2021, but I'm so glad that we did.
Yeah, I am too. I am too.
But yeah, yeah, but going into these two episodes specifically, I like that the very beginning of the pilot, where adult Dean is narrating and is relating it back to where we are now. We're saying that they had just ended a flu pandemic. They were in the middle of, of a war and unrest, and that, but relating it to the time that we were in at that time, sort of in 2021.
Yeah, I guess it did. It did relate at that time period. Yeah, you're thinking about COVID and everything like that.
Yeah, and I would say that that was one thing that really, stuck out to me during our original viewing back then, and of course our, our reviewing for this discussion. But overall, what were your thoughts about like how everyone was introduced? Like we see, of course, the parents as you mentioned, but we also see some of Dean's friends as well.
Yeah, I thought they did a nice job introducing everyone. It to me this series it was not a like some series have a true beginning. This one kind of started in the middle of a story per se, so it was just everyday life, and so they just kind of introduced each character slowly, and they just kind of and you just kind of got to learn them, of course, through the eyes of Dean. As he spoke about his parents, and then but they did have scenes by themselves, so you did learn about them as individuals too.
Yeah, and I especially like how like I said they introduce the characters throughout. I like that we're able to see the personalities of the parents, and we're already establishing their catchphrases within these first two episodes, such as "Stay out, grown folk business," and "Be cool" from the dad. So I mean, I really like that. Like two episodes in, that we're already sort of relating to them. We sort of know the structure of what we can expect, but that the show still holds surprises for us.
Yes, it is.
But yeah, and so, Mom, I know, like I said, since you mentioned that, that you believe it to be a sister show of the original, I 100% agree because I feel like it doesn't really fit the standard definition of like like a revival or reboot, or rather its own thing where it's able to tell a concurrent story that works alongside the original.
They did. They did. Now they did, and I'll let people watch the show. They did link both the shows together, and I thought they did a really great job of having that one pivotal storyline that kind of linked the shows. And so that's something that I think people just need to go find that episode and see how they link them.
Yeah, and I want to say too that of course you've seen the original series, The Wonder Years. I've never seen it, but would you say that this is able to this new series was able to hold true to the legacy?
Yeah, it holds true to the first show. I will say I watched the first show. I'm not saying I didn't like it. I'm just saying I didn't like it as well as I like this one. Now it's been many, many years. I don't think I've seen it really in reruns. I just watched it when it was on. Um, so I would have to go back and rewatch the first couple episodes. But I like, based upon what I remember, I kind of like this show better.
Yeah, and like I said, I've never seen I mean the original aside from bits and pieces here and there in scenes, but but I really enjoyed like I said this show, and I like that I mean, there's been a lot of shows, of course, that we have watched, both for the channel and otherwise. But I could honestly say, I could probably actually say that I remember a good majority of what happened in the series.
Yeah, you can remember most things. You've got a really good memory, also, Brandon.
But yeah, like I said, the show had 32 episodes, and they can all be found on Disney Plus. But Mom, is there anything else that you wanted to mention? Oh, and we did have a a short theme song beginning on episode 2.
Yeah, and I didn't quite realize that they didn't have a theme song on the first episode until I watched the episode two. And yes, unless you're familiar with the show, you're not going to really know that it's a theme song. It's a popular song itself, but I do like the theme song for it.
Yes, and if I remember correctly from the original airing, there is, I believe, one episode in season 1 that actually has a longer version of the short theme song, but I just off it wasn't one of these first 2 episodes.
Yeah, yes, but I do like the theme song.
Yes, I do like it as well. And they actually have a full version of it, just the audio on YouTube.
Oh, okay. I'll have to check it out.
But yeah, and so yeah, but what were your like I said, your overall thoughts to end out this sort of reflection and especially ending out this whole Disney Plus month?
Yeah, well, we've watched a variety of Disney Plus shows. And so I think we had this time, well, we were able to pick a show that we had not seen before. And then we were able to pick some shows that we have seen. And I think we did a good job of including a variety of time period shows, meaning like we found one from the 80s, we found a couple from the 2000s area. And then, so I think we did a good job of picking the shows this time because there is a variety of shows here. And they're all family shows. They're Disney. So these are at least anyway, all family shows that anyone can watch.
Yeah, that's something that I really like about this is that it's very family first entertainment, at least in my opinion, and I know that's the sort of genre that we like, and I like that even when we deviated from sitcoms, like when we watched Percy Jackson, that it still felt homey.
Yeah, it did. It did. And actually, and Percy Jackson, I'm surprised is something that I think I'll end up going back and actually watching some additional episodes. I mean, there are only a few episodes that they've made, and I think I can binge those pretty quickly. So that's something I'll go back and watch.
Yeah, and then even for like I said, for this series, The Wonder Years. I mean, I think I would very easily. I know last year I went to rewatch season 1, but I think I would go back to. I mean, to see season 2. Would you rewatch The Wonder Years?
I would rewatch The Wonder Years. I would.
But yeah, like I said, but Mom, I always love doing this. I'm very excited for our December theme coming up.
I am. You guys can try to guess what we're going to talk about in December. But we appreciate all of you guys watching, and we'll see you next time.
Have a wonderful day.
All right. Bye, everybody.